So you've been asked to draw this graph and, most importantly, clearly label one period with at least 4 XY coordinates so that you get full credit after all this great thinking. Amplitude, or our vertical stretch, setting x minus pi over 2 equal to 0 results in x equaling pi over 2. That means we're going to go right pi over 2. And then our midline or vertical shift is up 2. So I'm going to start with my vertical shift. Up 2. Down 2. Cosine starts at 1, down and back up, but in this case we're going to start up 3 instead of 1. So that means from here I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 up, start here, come back to 0, down to -3, back to 0, and then back up to that 1 above the x-axis. And my period is going to be 2 pi because the b in front of the x was 1. When I did 2 pi divided by b equals 1, I still got 2 pi. The problem is I'm right pi over 2. So instead of moving everything over to the right, I'm going to kind of cheat through this and say, hey, this is, instead of being 0, this is pi over 2. I'm just going to label it to take care of my shift. But the important thing then is I have to get the ending value correct. So if I start at pi over 2 and I add a period of 2 pi, finding a common denominator, I'll need 2 on top, 2 in the numerator, 2 in the denominator. Well, this is pi over 2 plus 4 pi over 2 for a total of 5 pi over 2. So that means I'm fully done with one full period at 5 pi over 2. So now as we think about labeling our points, here's pi over 2 comma 1. And here is 5 pi over 2 comma 1. Well, halfway between pi over 2 and 5 pi over 2 is going to be pi over 2 plus 1 pi. Same thing as before, I need a common denominator, 2 in the numerator, 2 in the denominator. This is going to be 3 pi over 2. So this will be the coordinate 3 pi over 2 in the x, negative 2, 3, 4, 5 in the y. So now we've got 1, 2, 3. We were asked to do 4 points. We'll do this point right here on the midline. We know the y coordinate is going to be 3, or sorry, down 2. And the halfway point between 3 pi over 2 and 5 pi over 2, well, let's just see here. If I was going to find the average, I could do 3 pi over 2 plus 5 pi over 2. That's going to be 8 pi over 2, which is equal to 4 pi. But if I want an average, I have to divide it by 2. 4 pi divided by 2 is just 2 pi. So that's this x coordinate. Now we have our 4 points. We've drawn a perfect graph.